Hi everybody, I'm just back from training again. I'm going to pick up where I left off last time, talking about managers. As I did last time, I dealt with George really. You got the flavour of him, didn't you? Well, the next manager to come along, of course, was Lloyd Ryan. And I've had questions here that said, what did I think of Lloyd? And as I said before, one of them even calls him a prat. I'm not going to tell you which one it was, but Flatliner and Alan Bennett asked the question about what I thought of Lloyd. And then the other question that I'm going to try and deal with today is from LVD Sport. Kendo, could you please share with us what your entrance music of choice was? So I'm going to try and deal with those things. As far as Lloyd was concerned, I mean, Lloyd was totally different than George. He wasn't gay, he wasn't flamboyant in that way. He was more sort of straight-laced and a bit butch, really, which at the time suited me fine because George, by the time Lloyd comes along as a manager, of course, George is right at the end of his life, really. George died, and Lloyd was just beginning to appear once or twice with us, and then as George got worse, Lloyd took over. So I was actually very grateful to Lloyd for picking up where George could no longer do it. And we had a good working relationship. I felt that he did a good job. I don't know why people think he was not suitable for the time and the period and what I was doing at that particular moment. I thought it was really good. On top of that, a long time before he became the manager, he did write the first theme, called Kendo's theme. And he met George in Brixton, of all places. And he got this idea into his head and saw George walking down the street, and I believe he jumped on him, not literally, of course, metaphorically speaking, and asked him about would we be interested in that. George discussed it with me, we had a meeting, and the whole thing developed, and there was a record eventually out with that on. And we used that theme to go into the wrestling shows for quite a long time. Kendo's theme. That eventually evolved into another anthem, which was the Anthem for Nagasaki. And that was written by a young man called Jonathan Smead. Now, Jonathan invited me. Jonathan was a student doing some sort of music degree, and he'd written this particular piece as his end of course. And he asked me if I would. I mean, I'd met him as a very middle-aged sort of teenager. I thought about 13, 14. By the time he wants to write this song, of course, he's getting older. Must be 19 or 20. And he invites me to come to this college where he's going to do this big presentation with his song or his theme. And I thought about it. I thought, well, that sounds interesting. And at the time, I just felt it was the right thing to do. So I went along, met Jonathan. I didn't know him very well until then. I got to know him better on that day. And he did the theme, and I thought it went very well. And then eventually, I used that as my entrance music. And coming right bang up to date, really, with the theme music that I use today, which was written by a character called the Lantis Cronus God, better known as Roz, of course, who's worked with me for years and years and years, both in and out of the music business. Roz and I met way back in the early 80s, late 70s, early 80s. and she came to work at Nagasaki Studios, and we did a lot of work together with Cuddly Toys, Laura Palace, and lots of other bands. She worked very closely with Sid James's son, Steve James. And we had Simon Napier Bell down there, who was the manager of Wham. We had all sorts of quite important people, including Edwin Starr, who did several recordings down there, and a guy called Paul Jabara, who wrote It's Raining Men, which was quite a very popular tune at the time. And we worked together, and right to this day, we still work together. Roz has done the latest entrance theme for Kendo, which is called Song for Kendo. And that's what I go into now.
Under lights he stands, aura of mystique. Kendo Nagasaki strength that never seems to peak. I was breaking records, winning every fight. Live a masculine mystery, you rules tonight. You're lost.
So that really is, each manager brings something different to the game, doesn't it? Lloyd was different than George. Atlantis was different than Lloyd. I mean, Atlantis came in really because we had a fallout with Lloyd. When I finished, I wasn't very pleased with Lloyd because he went off and started to manage a character called King Kendo for Max Crabtree. I wasn't happy about that. I felt that when Kendo finished, Lloyd should have done the same thing. He made that decision. So that really left a bad taste in my mouth, although I think Lloyd wanted to still be involved in the wrestling business. Of course, I wasn't, and he wanted to, so he took his opportunity. But that didn't go down well with me, to be honest. But we are still friends. When we meet each other, we are friends. We're still friends to this day. And I believe that Lloyd filled a big hole in my life at the time, as far as a manager was concerned. And I think he did a jolly good job. Right up to the last one, Atlantis, I believe she did a great job too. She's an unusual character, and I'll leave it at that. So I think that's about it for today. I don't think I can go any further with the managers or the songs. Oh, one thing before I do go, what I will say is that Jonathan Smead, right? He's got a young son called Lincoln Thornley Smead. Now, you'll notice that he's named his son after me. The middle name is Thornley. Now, Lincoln Thornley Smead, he has also been influenced by Kendo to take up judo. And I believe he's 10 now. In fact, I'm sure he's 10. And he now does judo. He's an orange belt in the junior category. And he's going to come to, would you believe, Croydon in his little judo gear to get in the ring with Kendo as Kendo's youngest and most avid fan. Having taken my name on as well, so can't be better than that, can it? So I'm looking forward to having him in the ring with me in 2 weeks' time at Croydon when I'm going to beat Sanji Bagger up. So I hope once again you'll all come and see it because it's going to be a great show. Bye for now.